There we go. That's a little bit better. Ladies and gentlemen, we are welcoming to the neighborhood an actress, a Jewish actress, thank goodness, veteran actress. You have seen her in such movies as Woody Allen's Stardust Memories and Tootsie in small roles there. She was also on L.A. Law on the television. And then she got this small little role on a show that you might have heard of called Seinfeld as Jack's wife, Doris. Well, of course, that put her in a whole nother level of people knowing who she was, even though she also did more TV shows like Oliver Bean. Remember that? No, nobody remembers that, but she was on there, and she does a lot of Jewish characters, surprise, including playing a character, this amazes me, in a movie about the Menendez brothers, but the character's name is Yenta. I guess they just kind of threw that on as a description. She was also playing, she was on Jane the Virgin as Mrs. Cohen, and a character called Deborah, or Devorah, on a show called I Feel Bad. Well, what can be more Jewish than that? But we feel good to be talking to the author of the book of Annie, Humor, Heart, and Chutzpah from an Accidental Influencer, someone that you've been watching on TikTok and Instagram and places like that. Won't you please welcome to the neighborhood on this Shabbos morning, Annie Korzen. Shalom, Annie.
Hi, how are you? Those are very ancient. Can I bring you up with some more recent credits? Those are really ancient.
Sure.
You can see me now. You can see me now in the movie Thelma with June Squibb. It's just been very popular in theaters. And I was on Pen 15 and Why Women Kill. I have more. Those credits are ancient. I do still work. By the way, that Menendez brothers thing, that was a Law and Order series. They did a Law and Order true crime thing. So that was part of the famous Law and Order
But your character,
franchise.
did they call you Yenta? Or did they just, was that your
You
credit?
know, I think you're right. I don't remember, but it could very well be because I didn't have it. I'm not sure how, I don't look at my resume that often, but it could very well be. It's not just Yenta. My thing seems to be, although I think I'm a very nice and charming and lovely person, my specialty seems to be obnoxious characters.
Wow.
Like on Seinfeld, I actually played two different roles. I'm one of the few, there were a couple of other actors who played two different roles. My recurring role was Doris Klompus down in the Florida condo. And so my husband, Jack, is always fighting with Jerry's father. So that put me in a lot of the classic episodes like Raincoats, The Pen, the Cadillac, blah, blah, blah. But they also used me as an obnoxious airline passenger. I don't know if you remember this. When Jerry gets bumped up to first class and Elaine is stuck in coach, she's sitting next to me. And I explained to her, I'm chewing gum, I'm totally obnoxious. Excuse me.
Oh, you
And
have.
I explained to her,
Yeah.
I explained to her what kosher food is. I say, it all depends on how the rabbi kills the pig. That was my line.
That's actually very good. So we have with us, of course, Doris Klumpus, but her real name is Annie Korzen. But these more recent roles, they do cast you as, is it specifically Jewish, or is this as like older person, obnoxious-ish?
Obnoxious, urban, older person. Urban. I don't play country people. Nobody casts me as a farmer's wife, you know. I'm a big city girl, both in life and in fiction.
So how did you get initially into the acting game, Annie Korzen? What moved you in that direction?
It was kind of accidental, really. I was a piano teacher. I grew up in the Bronx and everybody had a piano and I was a piano teacher. And I met my husband who's Danish, and my husband is a Danish filmmaker. As a matter of fact, my husband, Benny,
That's a Jewish
was involved.
Danish, Benny, yeah.
Well, actually, this is unusual. He is a Danish Jew. There
Oh,
aren't that many of them.
He's produced
Yeah.
Benny's Feast, if anybody wants to know.
He was one of the producers. I mean, it was really his partner who produced it, but Benny was on the team. And to me, that's one of the greatest movies ever made. We still watch it once every couple of years. We just watch it around the fourth or fifth time. It doesn't grow. Some movies don't grow old, and that's one of them. Also, The Godfather. We just watched The Godfather trilogy for the fifth time. It still works. It still works. Do you find that certain things just
The
are still
producers,
good.
of course. The producers, the Mel Brooks movie, of course.
Yeah, I know it very well. Benny was a friend of Zero Mostel's. Yeah, we
Oh,
knew
you,
because they
so
did
do you
a
have
bunch
any
of
Zero Mostel? Do you have any Zero Mostel stories? Any memories of him?
only that I can tell you that he really did not want to be an actor anymore. He did it because I think it was his brother or his brother-in-law was his money manager and ruined him. Didn't pay like millions of dollars in taxes. So Zero had to keep working. What Zero really was a painter and a wonderful painter, very fine painter. And that was his real passion, much more than the acting.
Well, at least he did. We can say how awful it was what his brother did to him, but because of it, we have Zero Mostel in the front. We have Zero Mostel doing that last tour, Fiddler on the Roof. We have Zero Mostel doing
Yes.
Rhinoceros. And so,
Right. It was his brother did a mitzvah for the rest of us.
really, honest to God, do you have memories of working on that Woody Allen film, Stardust Memories? Any thoughts about Woody, or were you just there for the day?
Yes, well, he was just weird. It was just a very small role. I think I had one or two lines, which were improvised. There was no script, and what was weird was he wouldn't actually, I mean, we were not stars, we were bit players. But for the bit players, he would not actually come and talk to us directly. He would send the first AD to say, Mr. Allen would like you to move the cup to the left. Mr. Allen would, it was a very odd, I guess is that shyness? I don't know. But we never really had direct contact with him. I think come to think of it, I think it was the same at the audition. There was a room full of people. The casting director ran the audition. He just sat there and observed. So I don't know what to
You're
make.
not the only person who is, and it's not the only film where that was his modus. I don't know if it still is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, if he wasn't dealing directly with people, and even with the people he was dealing with, sometimes he just let them do what they do and only contact them if there's something specific that he wanted. But let me also ask you, this is sort of the opposite, because on Seinfeld, you felt a part of that because you were this recurring character of Doris.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that at first you were shy, you didn't want to, but you overcame your shyness in the worst possible way.
When you say you read somewhere, did you read that in my book? I have to show my book to everybody.
The book is
I'm thinking,
called The Book
The
of
Book of
Annie.
Annie.
Yeah.
Humor, heart, and chutzpah from an accidental influencer. We'll talk about the influencer thing. But yeah, when you come up, my first day on the job, I was just there as a bit player. They didn't know that the role would recur. And when you're a bit player on a show, there's a pecking order, there's a hierarchy, right? So if the leading actor is sitting next to you in makeup, you don't approach them. They might be studying, they might be thinking. At lunchtime, you don't sit with them. You sit with the other bit. But as you say, since I returned several times, I started to get friendly with him. By the end, I was friendly. As a matter of fact, I'm still in touch with Jason Alexander, and he hired me years afterwards to play his sister in a theatrical production of Neil Simon's Prisoner of Second Avenue. So I stayed friendly with Jason, but anyway, it was a very congenial set. It was a very nice. That stuff comes from the top, and Jerry is just a nice guy. So people
Well,
would treat
how
him.
is Larry David though? I imagine that Larry's.
He was nice in his own way, but peculiar. He's just peculiar guy. But it was a nice, friendly. It was a nice atmosphere. It was fun going to work.
I just
And
remember.
I love Jerry Stiller. Jerry Stiller is one of my friends. And I know people in his family. I'm friendly with his daughter, Amy. Jerry Stiller, by the way, who couldn't learn his lines. And they had somebody there with him all day long, grilling him on his lines. But he always delivered. He was a pro.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I guess he got to the age where, well, are you, and we'll get back to the Seinfeld thing, but are you at the age where lines are a problem or no, never?
I am at the age where lines are a problem, but lines are not a problem for me. I mean, you could say that I'm at that age.
Oh, so but you're not, and because I don't think lines were a problem for Jerry Stiller in his 40s, 50s when he was doing stuff with Ann Mary.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good point. I don't know if it was an age thing or if he'd always had that. Some actors, and I think I've worked with some actors don't let you know it, but they're dyslexic.
Oh,
There are a few actors who really just can't read, so they have to have that. So I don't know if he might have had that. Who knows? But you know something, in show business, like in any other business, if you have a handicap of some kind, you figure out how to work through it if you want to get the job done, right? You just get the job done.
oh, is that, if I could have figured out a way to be 5'11", oh no,
Me
the
too.
synagogues I would have preached to. I can't even begin to tell you. But let me ask you though. But was there the thing that as you got friendlier with the folks back, I mean off camera, that
Yeah.
overcompensated, that you kind of were like, ah,
No, what happened with me is, see, in the beginning, when I first did the show, I was very relaxed around Jerry and Larry and all of them, because when I first did the show, no one had ever heard of it. To me, it was just another job. So yeah, hi, how are you? Hanging out. As I returned, and as the show got more important, and as it became, by my last episode, it was a global phenomenon. I got so in awe of them that I lost that relaxation. And my problem is when I'm not relaxed with people, instead of being quiet and shy like a normal person, I go the opposite. I get verbal diarrhea. And I would run into, a couple of times, I ran into, I remember the worst time I was at a supermarket
oh,
late at night, Ralph's in Hollywood. And I realized that Jerry was standing right behind me online with a young woman. And I turned around, he recognized me. He's always nice. He always says hello. I started talking. So, hi, Jerry. Oh, how are you? Oh, is this your girlfriend? Oh, is he Jewish? Oh, that's not. No, what do you buy? Do you cook? I went, I could see his eyes glazing over. Like, who is this insane woman? And I could not stop myself. It's one of the lowest points of my life. I really totally embarrassed myself out of nerves, out of being intimidated. And it was totally unnecessary because he was a really sweet guy, easy to talk to.
did that ever happen to you with any other celebrities that you've worked with on TV or in movies where you were next to somebody and or maybe you did you got to be shy instead of being like but have you ever been
Gee, I'd have to think about it. I'd have to get back to you. Well, the last job I did, I mean, it wasn't painful or anything. The last job I did was Thelma. And I walked onto the set, and there's the star, June Squibb, who, by the way, is 94 years old. And she has no trouble with her lines. And the other actor in the scene was Richard Roundtree. Now, I remember Richard Roundtree from
Shaft?
Shaft.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. He still looked gorgeous. I mean, he's an older man, but with white hair, but he's still beautiful. And I couldn't believe it. So I had a fan moment. So I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Roundtree, can I pay my respects to a legend?" And he's very sweet. He looked up, he looked around, "A legend here? Where? Who? Where? Who?" I mean, he just kind of
See, that's a happy.
played with it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's so sad that he passed before the movie opened. And that was too bad because he was the leading man in that movie.
I'm sorry, is it Thelma with TH as opposed to Selma, the movie about the March?
TH. Oh no, it's a recent movie. It just played a couple of months ago. Thelma, starring June Squibb and Richard Roundtree. And it's very sweet, it's very fun, it's very enjoyable. It hasn't streamed yet because it was playing in theaters. It opened in theaters. To very good reviews. And I'm sure it'll start streaming one of these days. Everything does. But
what do you play in that? What is your character in the movie Thelma?
I just have one scene, but it's a kind of a cute scene. They have a running joke where wherever Thelma goes, she thinks she knows somebody. Oh, I think I know that woman. Oh, wait a minute, I think I know. But in my scene, she actually comes up and approaches me. "Don't I know you?" And we have a whole discussion about, are you a friend of this? Which temple do you go to? It was a whole thing of, where do I know you from? And at the end, I guess I guess we don't reach, no, but it's too bad. I imply it would have been nice. It's just it's a sweet little scene.
No,
You know.
that sounds adorable. Now, did you have a sweet little scene or two in a movie that I saw on your IMDb page called "To the Hungry Tumor"? Do you have any memories of doing that?
None, absolutely none. I don't know what it was. I
Wait,
don't
wait,
know
wait.
if it
It
was
had
a
Tom
movie.
Arnold. It might have been animated. It was Tom Arnold and Ronnie Shell, if you remember him. You're on there.
I don't remember that. I don't, that's on my IMDb page.
Toomey the Hungry Tumor. Did you ever do a
Never
voice?
heard of it. I
Wow.
never heard of it.
Oh my. All right.
But
Okay.
occasionally IMDb does that. They have me
Well, it
credit
hallucinates, maybe. Yeah.
huh?
It hallucinates something. What
Yeah.
AI does. It's sort of like they think you're in something, and then you. So, who else do you remember working with? Like you were in Tootsie. Do you have any memories of working with Dustin Hoffman or Jessica Lange or any of the folks? Or
In Tootsie, I had, I think, one line. I'm a fan. I run up to get his autograph or her autograph. And for that one line, I had to audition in person 3 times. And all the audition tapes, the casting director explained to me, all the audition tapes were sent to Dustin Hoffman because he had to sign off on every single character, including someone like me who only had one line.
wow. Well, you got lucky. Now, let me ask you.
And then when we were out, we were shooting out on 57th Street in the street. And in between takes, most actors go and they sit down, they recharge, they think, that not Dustin Hoffman, in between takes, he was in drag, he was in his, costume.
Working outfit, yeah.
He would run out in the street and wave at truck drivers and flirt with drivers. He stayed in character. Hi, and shimmy around and stuff. He stayed in character the whole time.
Wow, that is, I mean, back in the day, that real method that those guys were doing, like Pacino
Right.
and Hoffman. And so let me also then ask you in terms of other celebrities that you have worked with and memories of them, good or bad.
Well, let me tell you something. Can we stay on Seinfeld for a minute? Is that okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Jerry Stiller is one of the funniest. He's kind of a lot of people's favorite character on that in that show. In real life, Jerry Stiller was educated, erudite. So this is back in New York. I went to something very odd. It wasn't the Moscow Art Theater, but some great classic Russian theater came to Broadway, and they were doing Chekhov. They were doing not the Seagull. What's the other famous one? The Cherry Orchard.
Yeah.
They were doing the Cherry Orchard in Russin. So every serious theater nerd in New York was there. They had the, what do you call it? That you could read the English on top.
Super titles on the thing, yeah.
Super titles, right? And I was curious. I was curious to see it, and I see it, and I go out during intermission, and there's Jerry, and he comes up to me. We start talking. We start talking about the play. He knew everything about that play. He knew everything about all Chekhov. He said, Annie, the character they always miss is the servant. He's a crucial character because blah, blah, blah. It could have been a university
A lecture by this
lecture.
Yeah.
That's how well he knew his. And then at the end, he said, and I always make a joke about that, since time immemorial, would all actors ask each other before they leave? So Annie says, "You're working?"
You're working, you're getting it. And what's lovely is that you're still working, that you are still doing, because when I introduced you, I mentioned these parts that for you are ancient history, because they were 80s, 90s, 2000s. You're still doing stuff, but people might know you post Seinfeld because somehow accidentally you became viral. What happened? What was that first?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I've always been I've always been a writer actress. I call myself a humorist. I don't, because because some of my stuff gets emotional, so I don't like being called a stand-up or a comic, because I don't just go for the gags. My stories, I hope
I'm
they're
making
fun.
the
I hope
gags.
they're
That's what
funny.
yeah.
Huh?
Nothing.
What's that?
Making a
Oh.
bad point. Go ahead. Yes.
Mm. So I did this thing called storytelling a lot. Uh, but then I was talking to a young friend of mine, she's 30, and I said, I wish I could find a larger audience for my stories. I think I have something to offer. So I said, I think maybe I should make some little clips and go on Instagram. I said that never having been on Instagram. I don't use Instagram. I don't understand it because it's all pictures. I'm not interested in, I don't get it. Anyway, she said, she's 30, right? Oh, Instagram is so toxic. It's so last century. You should be on TikTok. And I said, are you crazy? Why would anybody want to see me on TikTok? TikTok is about young girls putting on makeup, dancing. She said, trust me, Annie, you will go viral. And that was 1 week before the lockdown. It was March 2020. 1 week before the lockdown. So she would come over to the house and we started shooting these little things, and I had no idea what we were doing. I just trusted her. And it's actually, I got to say this, it's one of the themes of my book, because I've tried to train myself that my answer to everything should be, yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? You don't know the results of what's going to happen in your life. You know, when I got Seinfeld, it was because another actress turned down that part because she felt the role was too small for her.
No small parts, only small actors who have small parts, but that's
right, right. And I didn't know. No one knew it would be recurring. No one knew that the show would blah blah. No one knew I'd get a second role. Those few little lines that she turned down. I once figured out from the time I started in 1991, my residuals have added up to over $100,000.
now, I did want to ask about that. Like,
But
you get any money? Let me ask from like Tootsie. Do you still get a check for $1 every
yeah,
years?
I sometimes get checks for 5 cents from Jane the Virgin or 40 cents from, I don't know what. But sometimes I get, but Seinfeld, I still get substantial checks and from some other stuff. Oh, but anyway, wait. So I started doing the TikTok thing, and I cannot explain to you, it's a mystery to me why it went the way it went. I now have over 400,000 followers of all kinds, and not just old Jewish ladies like me. I have young Black kids coming up to me on the street telling me how much I have. I mean, it's been an amazing adventure. Just because, again, like I say in the book, yeah, why not? What could you lose by trying something? I only regret the things in my life that I didn't do. I don't regret anything that I did, except some moments about marrying my husband, but that's it.
and your behavior in that supermarket with Jerry. But let me also ask you, in terms of, so are you parlaying that? In other words, you have this fame, you have this thing of being recognized now, not for Seinfeld, but for being on TikTok. Do companies approach you to push their products?
I don't, yeah, I've done some brands. I don't chase after that because I don't want to think of this as my business. These young kids, these influencers, I hate that word, who do this full time and make a zillion, but this is their job. This is what they do. For me, it's a fun side thing, but I don't want it to be the focus of my life. But I have had some brands, and because of my platform there, I was able to get a book deal. That's how I got the book published. And because I got the book published, I've now been invited. You're a teacher, right? I'm going to teach a class at Emerson College, not the one in Boston, but the one in LA. They've invited me to teach a class in what I do, which is called storytelling. It's called writing and performing the personal humorous essay, which is really what I do. I've done it with the Moth. I don't know if you know the Moth. That's my specialty.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
all Spalding Gray. It's all sort of influenced
So,
by what he was doing.
pardon me?
It's all sort of influenced by Spalding Gray and what he was kind of doing.
He was a monologist. Yeah, yeah.
But reading as well, performative reading as opposed to going up there and doing monologues. Yeah.
Yeah, or David Sedaris is the one you think of these days.
Yeah.
Or
Well, they're
but
Goyim, so they don't really count that much.
but anyway, so so the book has definitely led to other things. And the best thing for me, I was on a movie, I had a short scene with Jane Fonda, which was fun because she and I actually know some people. It was fun to just kind of hang out with her. But again, it was my usual like 4.5 lines. And we rehearsed, and the movie was called, what was it called? Yikes, you probably know my resume better than I do. It's fairly recent. It was Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda
Oh, they got them
with
back
the
together.
stars.
All right. So.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I think it was called Moving On. I think that was the name of it, Moving On. It was a couple of years ago.
All right.
And the director was, what's his name? White's. I forget his first name. Last name is White's. I'm a big fan of his because he was the co-writer and co-director of one of my favorite movies about a boy. Do you
Oh,
remember?
is that the one where they had
Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant. I love that movie. It's one of those movies again that I watch again every once in a while. So we're rehearsing a little scene, and the director, why can't I remember his name? That's so stupid. Paul Weitz, I think it is, Paul Weitz. He takes me aside, and I figure he's going to give me notes, and I know what he's going to say. Because on every job, on every TV job, on every film job I do, I get the same note from the director. They take me aside. They say, Annie, it's going great. Your timing is perfect. Just on the next take, do me a favor, bring it down a little bit. Because I'm a theater person.
Some of
I'm
your stage person.
big, too loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget that. But that's not what Paul White says to me. What Paul White says to me is, Annie, I just have to tell you how much I love your story about your Black grandson on TikTok. And I fainted. I thought, Paul White follows me on TikTok and is a fan. Oh my God, that was like a big day for me. That was really a.
Now, was this storytelling, or do you actually have a Black grandchild?
My storytellers are all real. I tell stories about my life. He's adopted, and he goes to Hebrew school. He's being brought up, you know. My son didn't go to Hebrew school because we were not observant, but my daughter-in-law is more traditional. And
So
the child is
what do you
extraordinary.
and your husband Danny? It was Danny who said
Benny.
How much do Yom Kippur? Do you do any of the holidays? Do any of
No, I do what I'm invited to. You know, if I'm invited to a break fast, I'm there. I'm invited this year once again to a wonderful big Rosh Hashanah lunch.
So there's free food. Jews go.
There's free food, I go.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't brought up with it. My parents were your typical immigrant lefties and the Holocaust. After the Holocaust, my mother said, if there is a God, I don't like him. That was her take on religion. So I was brought up in a very secular
Did you lose family a generation beforehand to the Nazis out in Europe?
We don't know. Probably, we don't really know because the family that stayed behind in Russia or Ukraine or wherever garbagey place they came from, no one kept in touch. No one kept contact. You know, those families were so big in those days. Everybody had 5 brothers, 5 sisters, blah, blah, blah. So I knew the ones that came here, but I sometimes wonder about that, if there's any possibility that there's family still there. I've never done one of those. Have you ever done one of those tests?
Oh, the 23andMe and the 1, 2, 3 thing.
Yeah.
I put the spittle in. Apparently, I'm related to Hitler. Who knew?
Oh,
Who knew?
Okay. Well,
I had only one testicle.
At least he wrote a book. At least he got a book published, you know.
Now let me ask you, you wrote a book before this book, the book that you're pushing right now.
Yeah, A Bargain
Saving
Junkie.
money.
Well, because, and actually it's another one of the themes in my, it's not a theme of my book, but it's one of the subjects I talk about a lot on TikTok. I did not know that thrifting was a trending subject with young people. I had no idea. I grew up poor. I grew up being taught never to waste anything, never to waste money, never to shop retail. And that's the way I've always lived. That's the way I've always lived. I don't know if you can see if you can see my house in the back, you see I have fine antiques and art and whatever.
Yeah.
All bought on the cheap at yard sales and thrift stores and estate sales. I don't shop in stores. So I made a thing about that. And I had a friend who's an editor. She said, Annie, you should write a book about how to live well without spending money. And so I did. But it turns out right now that that's a big topic for a lot of my followers is thrifting. What I hate is labels. I hate people walk around, it says Coach, Chanel, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm not going to show a label unless they're paying me. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, you're right. Well, Nike, if you're with Nike or anything, or Lacoste.
Nike, you can't
Why am I
avoid it.
advertising for you? I should wear my name on the thing. Yeah.
I know. I have friends who do things, they embroider over it or they, anyway, sorry, you're going to ask something.
What is like your proudest moment as a shopper where you got something that you paid minimal for it and it's like,
Gee, that's interesting. I've had a lot of, actually, it wasn't mine. It was my husband's. When we went around, he doesn't do it as much anymore, but a lot of these things that I shop for, I then sell. I use it, being a writer and an actor, guess what? I do not have a steady source of income. This may come as a surprise to you. So I've had to do other things. So one of the things I did was a lot of these treasures I would find, I would resell. So I had a business. I still do a little bit of selling vintage fashion. As a matter of fact, if you remember the show Mad Men, they bought a lot from me because I had that 50s and 60s jewelry and stuff. So I bought vintage fashion and jewelry was mine, and my husband dealt in rare books. So we would go around on weekends. That was part of our job, which was also fun because I love treasure hunting. But we went to one sale up in Bel Air, very, very fancy, and they were getting rid of everything. There was some kind of old box lying on the floor, and Benny goes over and opens it, and it's an old Mahjong game. Yeah. We know nothing about Mahjong or the game, or if it's we don't know, but it was kind of nice looking. We liked the way the tiles looked. And Benny said to the guy, how much? And the guy said, oh, give me $12. It was either 12 or $15, which was a lot for us. We bought things for $1, but Benny just had an instinct. He said, okay, done. And we came home and he did a little research and he put it on eBay and we sold it for $1,500.
Oh my, wow.
Because we didn't know this, that old Mahjong games with the original tiles is a highly collectible. Who knew?
Because you go into a yard sale, an estate sale, and there's everything lying everywhere. So unless you're someone who's like, oh, I'm looking for this is, you're just going in. It looks like it's worth $3. It looks like it's worth $10. You don't know.
Right.
Unless you.
Right. Yeah. You have to have an educated eye. In this case, he did not have an educated eye. But he had an instinct. He had a good instinct.
Speaking of instinct, so what's like the most precious book that he has that he wouldn't even sell? That is like.
Oh, he sold them all. Well, there was one. He has sold them all because we had to move and we didn't have the room for it. It wasn't a book. Actually, he did sell it, but one of the great finds he ever found. We go to a estate sale, and I don't know. There's a collection of, what do they call it? Not paraphernalia. There's a word for it, a Latin word. I can't remember. It means printed things, letters, postcards, personal kind of thing. There's a Latin word for it. It escapes me because I'm old. And he picks up a postcard, and it's written in German. Benny can read German, and he realizes that the postcard was written by Albert Einstein, and it's signed. And he didn't pay 50, he paid maybe $100 for it.
So they knew.
They knew it was Einstein.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what it said. And apparently, I didn't know this, when you're collecting autographs of famous people. It's not just the autograph, it's the content. And what he said on this postcard was, it seems that the older I get, first he spoke about the war. The war is, he said something about war is coming. I just know it. It's going to be terrible, something like that. And then he says, and as I age, as I grow older and older, I grow stupider and stupider. Now that's a great quote from someone like us.
Yes.
So he sold that to a dealer for a couple of $1,000s. And then the dealer, of course, sold it to a collector for many thousands of dollars. He was the bottom of the,
right. He's the mega man, but that's wow. That's pretty amazing.
But, I've done, and this was fun. I try to do things that were fun. And that's also something I talk about in the book, that I think that the Book of Annie.
You're pushing that book. It's the
Yes,
the
Book of Annie. Humor, heart, and chutzpah from an accident. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it Barnes and Noble. You can, I don't know, I think you get it on Audible. Yeah, I also recorded the audio version.
Oh, yeah.
Get the book.
Listen to her doing the book.
Yeah,
it's great.
But the thing is, what I say in the book is, a lot of people on TikTok, they ask me questions. The young people ask me questions. How do I do? What should I do? Where should I? And what I say is, you can't predict how your life is going to go. All you can do is do what feels right to you. Do what brings you joy. I feel sorry for these kids who go to school just to learn a profession. They're not going to school anymore to get an education. They're going to school to learn how to make money. They have to, because life is so tough and so demanding. But I feel sorry for them because they're not getting an education anymore. I got what was, but anyway, my point is, maybe instead of doing that, maybe follow what do you really love to do, and do what you really love to do. I have a young neighbor I'm very fond of. She's a young woman in her 20s. She loves, I've never seen anybody who loves kids as much as she does. She sees a baby, she melts. She sees a little toddler, she'll pick, she just loves kids and they love her. Meanwhile, she's doing some corporate jobs that she hates. And I said at one point, I said, you know what your talent is, you know where your joy is. Why don't you become a nursery school teacher, a public, why don't you do something with kids? She said, well, she said, because you don't make any money doing that. And I thought that was sad. I thought it was sad that she can't follow her passion, and she's got to be stuck in some boring, soul crushing corporate job that's not her. Do you know what I mean? Now, I've always followed my passion. So I did the acting and I did the writing, and now I'm doing the humors and blah, blah, blah. I have paid a price for that. Financially, I paid a big price for that. But that's the life I chose for myself. So I think you got to choose, you got to make your choices based on your joy. I do believe that.
But you do get a joy out of doing the viral videos and all that. But do you feel the pressure?
I do.
To have to do a couple every week.
It's more than a couple. I do feel the pressure. I post twice a day.
Twice a day?
That means I have to do 14 a week. They used to want them very short. When I first started, you couldn't go over, I think it was 60 seconds was the limit. Now they're pushing, they want long form. They want them longer. And I always think, how am I going to keep coming up with stuff? But I do, because what I do is I just observe life that's going on around me. I'll see somebody doing something, or like we were in a restaurant the other day, a bunch of friends, and there was a young man at the next table whose voice was so loud, it cut through everything. And there was nothing wrong with him. And the person he was with, I don't think was deaf. He was just a loud talker, but it really invaded our space. And so I just wrote a TikTok about it. Have you ever been next to somebody who's having a personal conversation on their cell phone, and you're like you're a captive audience, right? And so I did a TikTok about how come people are not more aware of their surroundings, of the effect that they're having on
Yeah.
people nearby. They're so into themselves that they forget that they're part of a world, out there.
And also that dovetails again with your Seinfeldness, because there was the famous low talker episode.
Right, right.
So it really
And the loud talker.
your
Right, right,
yeah.
right.
We've been talking
Uh,
loudly with Annie Korzen here on the show, where we want to push her book one more time. It's called The Books. Hold that thing up. Hold it up close to the camera. Put it right in front of that camera. Beautiful. The book
yeah,
is
yeah.
Humor, Heart, and Chutzpah from an Accidental Influencer. You can get it wherever books are sold, including the audiobook that she narrates. Who's the publisher on this, by the way?
Well, they're called Postal Press. Well, it's distributed by Simon and Schuster, but the
Whoa.
publisher is Permuted Press, which is a department of a company called Post Hill Press. They're very small. I mean, they're not one of the biggies.
But hey, it's out there. People can buy it. People should buy it, because you can see the stories that she has. You can see the life that she has had, and the humor of this person, of Annie Korzen. So Annie, let me ask you, this as our going away thing. What do you foresee? Well, yeah. What do you foresee over the next 5 years in terms of your life and career?
Other than death, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, only more of it, and get paid more for it. I love writing. I love acting. I love storytelling. I'm going to be with the Moth. I'm going to be on the Moth Radio Hour,
When?
which is, they haven't given me a date yet. Oh. Sorry, it's my early morning scratchy throat.
You're Jewish chef phlegm, I know.
I don't know what that is.
Actually,
So I really want to just keep doing what I'm doing.
Are you ever you've done also solo shows as a storyteller? Are you
Yes, I have. I've done solo shows,
Yeah.
but I'm not. That's so much work. I found that's creating an hour and a half of material. But as a storyteller, it's 10 minutes of material. So as a,
That's good. Well, everybody, look for Annie. Do you have a website actually that we can send people to?
Oh, sure. Annie Korzen. Thank you. I didn't think of that. It's anniekorzen.com is my website, and it's A Korzen on TikTok.
A Korzen, Korzen.
You got it right. You got it right. No one ever gets that right. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
They always do it with a C. They say Annie Korzen, which is what heart in Spanish. Or, yeah. But that's not my name.
But no, we are having not a Zen moment, but a Korzen moment here at Neighborhood with the lovely Annie Korzen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you do some more Jewish things, quite honestly. But whatever you're doing, health and happiness
Oh,
with your husband. And thank
I
you.
do. Wait, I should say that because of the book, I've been invited. I'm doing a lot of temples. I do. I have several coming up where either we do it on Zoom or I come in person and we talk about me and my life and the book. So I should send that out there. Temples, I'm available.
And look,
I do that a lot.
My temple is Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And
okay.
We don't do the high holidays, we do the low holidays. So maybe we can get you for Tu B'Shvat or one of those, or Shoah Day, maybe.
Whatever. I'll do it. First, you'll have to explain the holiday to me, and then I'll do it.
Shalom to you, and thank you
so
much.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Shalom.